One concept that I find fascinating is the raspberry jacket or magenta jacket. I will insert some pictures here. In the 90s, the people who became newly rich, so the nouveau riche as we call them, they bought these type of clothes in order to signal their newfound wealth. And it is still kind of true, not necessarily in the raspberry or magenta jacket territory, but in the fact that a lot of the nouveau riche people, you can really tell they're nouveau riche by the way they look, because they're going to wear a lot of flashier brand designs like Gucci and and all of those fun little things, which I personally find kind of funny to look at and entertaining, and I don't mind them. But when I look at price tags, I'm like, you've exploited children and then you put this type of a price tag? How freaking dare you? But yeah, this is still a thing nowadays. Of course, we don't have any old money because people could not get rich during the Soviet Union off of exploiting others. So a lot of the people who were very prominent during the Soviet time in the 90s, they had nothing to their name. Even if they had some savings, all those savings devalued because of the devaluation of currency that I talked about. So yeah, most of the people who were well respected in the Soviet Union became nobodies just like everybody else. So my microphone stopped working right in the middle of some of the juicy stories. Well, actually no, I'm not disclosing anything that might get me in trouble, but a lot of the raspberry jackets, magenta jackets people, they engaged in violent crime just due to the circumstances. So they would engage in fraud, in smuggling of contraband, in getting shares of plants and factories out of people. Just as I shared before in my first video about these matters, they would provide mafia-like help to the newly emerging merchant class, meaning that they would, for a fee, make sure that the sales are going just fine and there isn't too much competition, or sometimes they would just demand bribes from people, just threatening them. And a lot of these people who were able to earn a lot of money due to crime and exploitation of others, they later fled or just moved to other countries, specifically to Europe or the United States. And there are quite a few of them still living somewhere there. And they might lead a normal life nowadays. We had some personal encounters with such people. Again, I'm not going to disclose too much. Some of these people ended up in prison in other countries, not even here, because they continue to engage in fraudulent activities outside of the country too. Some of these people actually got murdered in the inside gang type of matters, but some of these people are still around and doing quite well for themselves. Some of these people may have ended doing governance either on a local level or even higher up in the government. Thankfully, I don't know a lot of the names of the people, so I'm not going to get myself in trouble by accidentally disclosing some sensitive information. But having had some encounters with the nouveau riche, I would say they were regular people. They were usually not special in any way or form, which just shows you that if you put people in extreme circumstances, you're going to get extreme outcomes. I'm not condoning the activities of these people. I'm not saying these are normal activities. I'm just saying that in such conditions, in such circumstances, crime is inevitably going to rise because people are going to need to deal with extreme conditions to the best of their ability, and some will resort to crime. Again, that doesn't mean that crime is normal and that humans are going to always strive towards crime. It's just that extreme conditions push people over the edge and they may engage in some illegal and anti-human activity generally. In the first video in the series, I also mentioned that there are quite a few movies about this time period, and the one that I personally think does the best job at portraying the time is Жмурки, which can roughly translate it as dead bodies, but this word is kind of humorous. It's not necessarily like corpses, it's dead bodies. It's kind of hard to translate, it's a slang word, so I think there is a translated or at least subtitled version of this. In my opinion, it did a pretty decent view at portraying that time period in Russia specifically, which, as far as I'm aware, Russia had it worse than us. I would not say that this movie is pleasant to watch. I really hated watching it because of how violent it is and how it shows you this kind of senseless violence and how people become desensitized to violence. And it just makes me personally very sad. But I guess that's one of the goals of the movie. So it is a dark comedy also. So I would highly recommend it if you kind of want to feel the vibe of the 90s in the post-Soviet republics. Of course, it doesn't mean that literally these kind of things were happening. Some similar things did happen. There were occurrences that were quite similar to the occurrences displayed in the movie. Another movie that is kind of a cult classic is the one called Brother, and there is another one, Brother 2, and I personally haven't even watched them completely because I just couldn't stand it, but people say they're pretty good and they're pretty accurate, and from the bits and pieces that I did manage to watch, I would say, yeah, it's probably decent as well. Also, it appears like it romanticizes some of the occurrences and kind of portrays some of these people as heroic, which I don't think is the best idea. But again, you can watch the movies. I'm sure they were translated into English. I think they got some international awards, maybe in Europe somewhere. So yeah, I think they were translated into other languages for sure. If you were born in the post-Soviet Republic as well, you can share your stories down below from the little bits and pieces that I'm getting from here in TikTok. A lot of the people from other post-Soviet republics had very similar circumstances growing up in the 90s, and it's very interesting seeing stories from all over the former Soviet Union. Anyway, I hope you have a great day today, and I'll talk to you sometime later.